Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Sunday morning. It's the day after the federal election, and who would have thought? Who would have thought that a country that had a political system, a political party that delivered record low unemployment, got us through the worst ever pandemic that Australia has seen in modern years, developed solutions to save people's jobs and people's livelihoods. A political system that was generating an economic growth enabled us to bounce back and generate an economic growth which was considered the highest in the economic modern world amongst the countries that we compare ourselves to, our peers. A treasurer who devised JobKeeper, who is now no longer a treasurer, or at least is probably staring down the barrel of defeat to somebody who has no political experience, an independent who could never become a treasurer because she's not part of a main political party. So it's a day for me of reflection, a day where I'm a little bit concerned about our future, because I know, just like everybody else, that we're heading into tough times, into uncharted waters, with people who haven't formed government in 10 years or more, people who have little experience, people who haven't teamed together, and probably don't have a political system to enable them to team together to be effective in their role. And we've got a crossbench of about 10 or more independents, 10 or more ministers, well, not ministers, but representatives who are representing a diverse portfolio of things that we need to balance and work with in order to get us to progress and hopefully move forward. As we know, the Labor Party of old have been big spenders and have been ineffective and inefficient in their spending patterns, and at a time where we've just come through, as we said, a pandemic and a need to invest huge sums of money to save our economy, having a political party and a system in charge of the finances who are basically incompetent at doing that role is going to put extra stress on our budgets and will cause us grief going forward, given that we're in an environment characterised by rising interest rates, rising inflation, and rising tensions in the world from a defence perspective and also from an immigration perspective. So we've got interesting times ahead. I don't want to get ahead of myself and say too much, but I think for those of us of my generation who are looking to retire over the next few years, it's going to be painful to watch a lot of the good work, a lot of the good teamwork that we've seen. And as Scott Morrison says, being in opposition is relatively easy. You just front up to work every day and just pick holes and pick fights with the government of the day. But when you're in government and when you have issues and challenges to not only face but to understand, to deal with and to try and solve, that is a full-time position. It's a difficult position which requires collaboration and cooperation and understanding in terms of how to get things done. And I seriously doubt that the Albanese, Anthony Albanese, has the skill, has the capability, has the depth and the breadth in terms of his ministers and resources to be able to understand the detail and to work through this complex and complicated Rubik's Cube of issues that all Australians face. And to think that anybody would put climate change as its highest priority in their agenda during a period where businesses face their biggest challenges and households face their biggest challenges in terms of cost of living, mortgage stress, and a heated property market, is going to be problematic. So we wait and see and hope and not get too excited and basically become risk averse going forward, and just batten down the hatches is the message that I have to my family, to my friends, and to anybody listening to this vlog on this particular day. Anyway, I'm in the car today. It's Sunday morning, so in order to clear my mind, I've decided to go for a drive and do a few vlogs and see a little bit of this beautiful country that we live in, appreciate it from a different perspective. And today I plan to go to the south coast, drive all the way down to St George's Basin, Jervis Bay, and go to a place which I haven't been to for maybe 45 years, and it's Hyams Beach, a beach that has the finest sands in the world, the whitest sands, the finest sands. It may not be a great day for it, given that it's been raining in Sydney. I don't know what the weather is down there, but what we'll do is we'll do a vlog on the way so that we drive. I get to show you the road, the trip down, or part of the trip down, and we learn something new. So the book summary that I've decided to talk about this morning is entitled Dealing with People Who You Can't Stand, by an author known as Rick Kirschner. So a topical book and an apt book for the way I feel today, given a change in government and a sense that we are all going to be extremely frustrated over the next 3 years, and there are many friends and family of mine who are seniors who are probably not going to see through this next 3-year period, given the age that we're at. And I just pray that things just don't get too bad, too agitated, too messed up. And I pray for my grandchildren who will be starting school over the next 3 years, that the left don't destroy things to a point where the future leaders and our future hopes are not impacted negatively too much. Anyway, let's get on with this book summary. It's been a long lead-in, a long prelude for this book summary, but I think it's deserving given the importance of this day and the shock that I'm in and the shock that I'm trying to get my head around at the moment. So the author in this book kicks off and identifies a number of traits in people that can cause issues and make people difficult to deal with and make people problematic. And he identifies a thing called the 10 unwanted list. And I remember the ancient Greeks from 2,500 years ago had a list of character traits, and I think the list was as much as 200 character traits that they were able to identify back then. So human nature doesn't change very much. But what this author here has done in this book is he has subsetted and broken that list up into 10 unwanted traits that annoy us, traits that cause discomfort, and traits that people find hard to deal with and hard to work with in other people. So I'll go through these traits just quickly, and then we'll go on and talk about a few things and how we can possibly manage a little bit better the people around us, manage ourselves, in order to at least be productive in our unproductive dealings. So the 10 traits are as follows. He talks about the people who are tanks, the people who are bulldozers, the people who are confrontational. He talks about other people like the super sarcastic. I just couldn't imagine having to deal or to work with Penny Wong. That look that she has, that uncomfortable smile, the way she talks. She just comes across as being the super sarcastic, the person who would just make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel dumb, regardless of what you said. If what you were saying was different to the narrative, to the left narrative that she holds and she shares. The next type of person on this list is described as the grenade, the sort of person who just sits there and just explodes over nothing, out of nowhere. The Kevin Rudd style of politician that you just don't know how they're going to react at any given moment, and everybody around them has to walk on eggshells and basically live in fear for the destruction that would be coming their way, given emotional thermometer and thermostat that these people have and basically can't manage. So after the grenade, the explosive type, we've got the know-it-all. And there are two types of people. Now, there are people who just know their stuff and know what they're doing and are very decisive. And I guess to a certain extent, from my perspective, this was the type of leader that Scott Morrison is. And sometimes you need to step back and step aside and to listen to the know-it-all, but the one who actually knows it all and can see the big picture, can see the detail, is across the detail and the big picture, and to trust their vision, to trust their understanding, and to trust their leadership. So we've got the know-it-all. They can be difficult to work with and to deal with. But if at the end of the day all you want to do is end up in a better place, then sometimes the know-it-all who does know it all and has the runs on the board and has delivered time and time again is worth following. But the issue that we have, and we can all understand this, is that generally we tend to be surrounded by another type of person who thinks that they know it all. So you've got the know-it-all, and you've got the person who wants to mask and pretend that they know it all, but are not across the detail and are not across the governing principles, and are basically the blind leading the blind. So we need to be cautious and to be discerning with the people around us, and to be able to identify the know-it-all, the one who absolutely knows it all and knows what they're doing, from the pretender, the one who thinks that they know it all, because as we said, they are the dangerous ones. The next group of people, or the traits that the person here in this book talks about, is the yes person. The person who just agrees to everything. The person who moves in a direction wherever the wind blows, the weather vane. The Albanese type, who has an opinion on everything and is easily swayed depending on the day, depending on the company. The person who's a diplomat, who just says and does what other people want to hear. The one who just rolls over. So Albanese, the Albaneso, is going to be tested by the independents if he doesn't get a majority government, and the strong people within his party, the factions, the left, the people who are heavily opinionated and very strong, because he, to me, does not, in his mannerisms, in his experience, in his delivery to date, show in any way, shape or form that he has a spine, or he has organisational skills and has the strength to lead and to do the job of Prime Minister, which, as we see, as we know, is a tough job. It's a job which is a thankless task, which goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, for the entire term in which you are in that position, and you're dealing with complex and complicated issues on a daily basis, and you're being continuously distracted and disrupted by people in your own party, by your constituents, the opposition, and the media, as well as international stakeholders and business stakeholders. It's a job where you're juggling many balls at the same time, and as we said, it's a thankless task. Just ask Scott Morrison. Who would have ever believed that a great leader like Scott Morrison would be getting up today and scratching his head and saying to himself, what more could I have done? The next person that is identified in this book is called the nothing person. The person who basically doesn't get up to anything, doesn't have any dreams, doesn't have any vision, just goes with the flow and ends up where the current, where the winds blow. And for people who have direction, for people who are goal oriented, for people who have dreams, for people who are action based, having to deal with a nothing person who has no dreams and no drive, you can imagine could be very, very frustrating and painful. The next identity on this list is the no person, the person who just continues to say no, the perfectionist, the procrastinator, the person who is waiting for the right time, for the right opportunity, and can never get started on anything, can never make progress on anything. They're probably happy to start many projects and deliver on none. So that's the lens of understanding that the author gives us. And he says that at any point in time, you're probably working with people who share these traits, one or more of these traits, and you've got to be able to learn how to collaborate and cooperate with them as best you can. It may be easy in some cases, or it may be extremely difficult in other cases, as we see in how the government of the day has progressed. But the important thing to understand, according to this author, is that people are either task-oriented or people-oriented. They're either task-focused or people-focused. They are passive in their engagements, or they can be aggressive in their engagements. So it's up to each and every one of us to identify in ourselves who we are and how we respond, and to identify in others around us, the people in our families, the people who we are caring for and looking after, the people in our organisations, our customers, everybody that we touch on a daily basis. We need to try and identify what character traits they have that we can work with, or that at least we know how to work with, and to get the best out of those engagements, and things that we need to be careful of and sensitive to. So we need to understand that we need to get the task done. We need to get the task right. We need to get along, and we need to get appreciated. So they're the key things that everybody look for on a daily basis, and we all have those needs. So from a leader's perspective, if we know that these are the things that people look for, and we understand the character traits that they're sharing or they're projecting, then we need to build our tactical response and our strategies for each of those people in our social circle, in our social orbits, so that we can make the progress that we need and get on with our jobs. But the author highlights here, and this is a profound moment in the book summary, where we say that when people have the same priorities, misunderstandings and conflict are much rarer. I remember working with an engineer at Advantra many years ago. I remember his first name. He was a gentleman, a very smart, a very effective leader, and really good at his job. He was older than me. He was a parent, and obviously a community leader within his community. He was of Indian extraction, and his name was Sastry. I forgot what his last name was, but I could still see his face when he was telling me this. And he was saying to me that, James, there's no such thing as bad people in the world. No such thing as people who are, at the extremes of evil and goodness. There may be potentially, maybe just a few, he said, but the majority of people aren't evil. But he says that the majority of people in our lives are governed by differing interests. We have differing interests which colour, which shape, which flavour what we do, how we do it, and how important it is to us. So if we've got priorities, if we've got interests that are diametrically opposed, then you're going to think that I'm evil, and I'm going to think that you're evil. But at the end of the day, we have different lives. We've lived a different past. We are going to live a different present. I am here, you are there, somewhere else, and we're going to experience a different future. We have experienced different slithers of reality throughout our lives that have coloured our worldview, the way we see the world, the way we decide things, the way we appreciate and gain meaning from the things that happen in our lives. And all of those things are going to shape how we see the world, how we see our place in the world, and how we see the others around us. But it's important to understand that people have different priorities, and we need to respect those priorities. But we also need to understand what those priorities are, so that we can appreciate them and work with them, or work over, under, through, or around them. Not everybody is going to be trying to achieve and help you achieve the outcomes in your job, but you need to respond to those challenges and find the best path, find the best way of getting things done, and to minimise, where possible, conflict by understanding where the other person is coming from and trying to identify common elements, things you can do to help the other, or explain to the other so they don't see you as a threat to their goals and their priorities, and to not at least block your path or sabotage your efforts and give you a free pass or a shared access through their space. So it's important, according to this author, to learn how to build rapport with people around you and to leverage the relationships that we have, and to understand that we live in a world where people have differing interests. So the sun's starting to come out, so I'm happy. So the other thing is that we need to communicate both consciously and subconsciously, through our body language, through the words that we choose to use, through our approach. And as we said, each person is different. Each person has different defense mechanisms. They've got different ways of guarding themselves. They've been potentially injured, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, by people along the way in their lives. They may have beautiful slithers of reality and also negative ones that colour, that shape, that provide a lens through which they see their engagements with people. So we need to listen to people, and we need to listen to understand. We need to see, to understand what drives them, what motivates them, what pains them, so that we can work with them, around them, as we said, through them or under them. So by listening, the author says that it's important to listen with our ears, listen with our eyes, listen with our hearts, and listen with all of our senses, so that we get the different clues to get a heads up of where the other person is coming from, where they're going to, and to try and make sure that when they put their blinker on, or when they are doing a U-turn, to make sure that you don't T-bone them, they don't T-bone you, or they don't run you off your path intentionally. They may do it unintentionally, which brings us to the next point, where the author says in this book, and rightly so he says, because as we said before, everybody has differing interests, differing priorities. We're all at different stages of our lives. We're on different paths that may be going in a parallel, the same direction, or they may be coming perpendicular, or in some cases they may be coming completely opposite us and going in the other direction. What never ceases to amaze me is that when I look back over my life, when I look back over politics over the years, you know, the things that I grew up with, the things that I knew that were absolutely right, were absolutely the truth. Now I've got people trying to convince me that that was all wrong, and that I need to change and they're right. And the things that I knew that were absolutely wrong whilst growing up, that was diametrically opposed to my value set, I've got people now trying to convince me that I was wrong and they're right. So we're living in a world which is hard to understand. Now you've got people who will tell you that white is black and black is white, and it's so bloody confusing. But as my mother used to say, you know, at the end of the day you need to stick to your values. You know, you are a chain in a long chain. You have your culture, your traditions, your family values that you've been brought up with, and you need to stick with those, and to stick with them knowing that they're going to serve you at some point in time, because these family values have been generated over generations and are time tested and pressure tested through war, through famine, through richness, and are basically going to help you get through the tough times that are going to come to each and every one of us at some stage of our lives. We are going to get tested. whilst in many ways the best years of our lives are ahead of us, for some of us, some terrible challenges are going to come our way, and dare I say, with Albanese at the helm, with Penny Wong and a number of the other left-leaning Labour factionalists, it's going to be challenging and painful for many of us, just looking and going forward. So I just need to turn left here and go towards Wollongong, I suspect. Or maybe I'll continue going straight and head to Nowra via Barrel and just take the scenic route. Why not? It's early in the morning, nobody's pushing me, and at the end of the day I'm going for a drive, a long drive today, given that my beautiful wife Paula is overseas. She'll be back next weekend. There's nothing happening at home today, and it was raining in Sydney, but I might get some bright sunny weather to celebrate this autumn day. And it's all about chasing the good weather, chasing the beautiful weather at this time of year, when things, as we said, is wet and miserable and cold. Anyway, the author here says that we need to sometimes give other people the benefit of the doubt, which is hard, given that, as we said before, people have different priorities, different interests, and many of us grow up being suspicious. You have a lot of conspiracy theorists about, and it's interesting to see that Fat Boy Palmer and Craig Kelly, the one who was probably getting bigger from a body perspective than Clive Palmer, actually failed in their attempts. Craig Kelly didn't even win his seat. So he's gone from being in the Liberal Party to becoming a conspiracy theorist and spreading fear, uncertainty and doubt, and joining Clive Palmer, and now going into oblivion. I wonder what his future is going to be, but it's certainly not going to be one where he can leverage and use his constituents, because obviously they didn't trust him, they didn't want him anyway. So Clive Palmer has just spent $100 million. Good luck to him. He could have spent that money helping communities, helping the underprivileged, paying off his employees that he owes money to in those ventures that he made, that he folded up. But it just goes to show that the world is changing, and God help us when we have a political party, when we have independents who put climate change ahead of anything else, not understanding that the cost of climate change policies are going to be very, very expensive, and who the hell is going to be able to pay for them? Who's going to be able to afford them? Where's the money going to come from? Where is the $1.5 trillion of Australian money going to come from in order to bring these policies to life? Policies which are not going to have a significant impact on the world, given that China, India and many of the other economies, the big polluters, And science is not altogether agreed that man-made carbon is the source of climate change, and whether or not climate change is in fact as dangerous as we are led to believe, because the science is flip-flops, and it's all based on assumptions and theories, and who knows what the absolute truth is, and whether or not it's as bad as what people say, or the impact that humans are having can change the direction in which something is already moving at a natural pace anyway. So as we said here, we need to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume positive intent, and we need to try and, in our engagements with other people, to identify the values that we have in common, and to manage the tone of voice, and to state the positive where possible, to state positive intent, and to tell people that we're coming from a positive position and that our interests may be different. You know, I may be interested in ensuring that the economy has stable government, that jobs are preserved and businesses are preserved, and the interest rates are managed, and inflation is managed, and the debt is managed to the point where we don't get to ourselves into a panicked, knee-jerk, reactive mode by overspending and shutting down power plants that are that are effective in what they are doing, until we get the technology that we need to get to. Maybe that technology is nuclear, who knows? But to think that solar energy and wind-powered energy is the solution to our woes is folly, is absolute ridiculous. My wife told me in a phone call that Greece is talking about banning all cars by 2030 that are not electrical powered. And I said to her, where is Greece, a country that has suffered 10 long years of economic crisis, where people earn 600 to 1,000 euro a year, which is less than $20,000. It's probably closer to $15,000. Where are those people? Where are people who are on a pension, who are earning 400 or 500 euro a month? Where are those people going to find the money to buy an electric powered vehicle and to just scrap and get rid of the car or cars that they have at the moment? You know, is the government going to subsidise those activities? Where's the money going to come from? It's just bloody ridiculous. It's just the stupid leading the stupid. But once again, we need to manage our path forward, and to know that the times are going to be tough. We're going to be challenged. We've got war in Ukraine. We've got China becoming a lot more aggressive. And we had a Prime Minister who would stand up to China. We had a Prime Minister who would stand up to and make tough decisions. And we had a Prime Minister who went through some tough times, some times of natural disaster, things that you can't predict, things that you can't influence, things that you can't change. And he is no longer the leader. He's going to step aside, and he won't even be the leader of the opposition going forward. And by the looks of it, Frydenberg won't be there either. So the Liberals are struggling to find another potent, another charismatic, and another powerful leader to at least keep these bastards honest. So we need to manage that, and to know that we are moving into uncharted waters with an uncharted leader, with an uncharted and untested party who basically have had the easy job of being in opposition, have had the easy job of being a shadow minister, or being on the periphery, or not even being in politics before. You know, we've got people who are the Teal Brigade, who are the Greens, in a different personification, in a different expression. So we're going to have interesting times. And as they said on television last night, we had Robbo say that you know, if the Liberals are not leading the country, you know, he prefers to have a party, a key party leading the country, and to think that a party who lost its primary vote, who lost share of its primary vote, who went backwards in its primary vote, could be forming government is absolutely scary. And as we said before, having to deal with a crossbench of up to 10 to 12 parties with varying identity, politics, platforms to deal with is going to be difficult, especially when we're going into difficult times, especially if, you know, we go into a war, especially if we're confronted by the menace of China, or other pandemics or other major issues that come our way. You know, we need a strong, closed fist. We need to be tight. We need to be working and collaborating together, and not trying to nickel and dime each other by trying to get things done to satisfy an enclave, to satisfy an urban political group who have these esoteric ideas which are not very practical, and yet are being put forward just to make them feel comfortable, to ease their middle class guilt. But as we said, ideas that are going to be born economically by the poor, the needy, and the ones who are least able to really benefit from it, but will share the pain from a tax perspective and the outcome perspective. Anyway, take care everybody. This has been a long but very interesting vlog, a very thoughtful one, where I'm able just to open up to my friends and family and share some of my thoughts, some of the challenges that I, in my end of work years, and hopefully the beginning of my retirement years, is contemplating and wondering whether or not it's all worth the while to keep on working, to keep on pushing, to keep on thrashing yourself, knowing very well that people's living and livelihood and jobs are going to be threatened by this new political parties that are going to be taking over as of Monday. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday. Wishing you all the best. And to my Christian friends, my Greek Orthodox friends, Christos Anesti. The 40 days leading to Ascension Thursday are coming to an end. We have Ascension Thursday this Thursday, the day before my 62nd birthday, and I look forward to enjoying and celebrating this marvelous day that'll come, this feast of the Christian Church, and to then look forward to Pentecost Sunday. That'll happen 10 days after. Take care, everybody. Yassas, and bye for now. Cheers from Jim's